Hi, everyone. So I'm one of the co-founders of Parallel. Can I just get a sense if any of you have heard of Parallel? Just let's show your hands. OK, cool. Thank you. So thanks for coming if you've heard about us. What I'm going to talk to you about today is just a bit about what we've built so far and a bit about where we want to go and why. So Parallel as a studio is comprised of a lot of really talented folks who contributed to some of the best games and the best content over the last probably decade. If you enjoy Marvel movies, if you've enjoyed Splinter Cell, Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, stuff from Nintendo, we've contributed to it. So we're a really small group of people distributed across the world who are really passionate about building incredible games. And for those of you who've never heard of Parallel, I think the first and best thing to do is to introduce you to the world. So I'll let you see that now.
Identify. Pirates. Get me an open channel. Show me their trajectory and cross-reference with our route. I know that ship. Prepare the fleet. Put them on.
This is Freighter's territory, my dear Catherine. You should know better than to pass through Echelon space.
Mars bows to no one, including Echelon.
Oh yes, the good old Markolian way. Hiding behind your shameless sense of superiority.
This is your last chance, Marlowe. Divert course or we will make you.
Did you hear that, crew? Looks like it's payday. Don't start something you can't
Armor Division!
At your command.
I want all weapon systems ready for transport.
Understood. Confirming all weapon systems ready to deploy.
Pull up tactical array.
So I think that's a really good way to just introduce you to some of the world that we're building and some of the IP around what we built. So what we've delivered so far, we're in closed beta today of our TCG, trading card game. The base set of cards has been complete, and the way the game works is you can pick from any one of the 5 parallels. Augencore, which are kind of mechs, Shroud, which are kind of mystical, Markolians, which are Mars colonists. They tend to be very militaristic. Earthen, who are kind of people who got left behind on Earth as this radiating event happened. And Cathari, who are clones. And so they're all 5 different groups of humans, but they've all evolved in parallel, separate from one another, to be different. And so the TCG works in the way that people are playing it today. The way it works is you have to comprise a 40-card deck. And the 40 cards can be NFTs. They don't have to be. If you play with NFTs, you get to win an emission of a reward token called Prime, which is the ERC20 reward for winning games. And you build a 40-card deck, and you play with your opponent, and whoever kills the opponent before the end of the match wins. And essentially, in the 30 days or 35 days that we've been in closed beta for the game, people have already played over 300,000 matches of Parallel. And there's, it's the largest, widest held 1155 NFT, and it's, I think top 20 or so in all-time volume across all networks in terms of digital assets. So quite proud of what we achieved in the game so far. And again, so as you win a match, it's a skill-based game. As you win, you earn an emission of the ERC20, and you can use that within the ecosystem to make more cards, buy cosmetics, just things that traditional gamers would do. And so as we've developed these cards, this is kind of now shifting into where we're going and why. So each one of these cards is, an 1155 NFT. As we've developed them, we've been creating this library of 3D assets that we can use to power subsequent games and make more ways for people to engage with the game and different types of games. And essentially what this means is that as we make cards, we're essentially in a pre-production phase, if anyone's familiar with how these things are designed. As you're building these cards, you're creating these 3D assets, and your library and repository of assets are becoming larger and larger and larger, and it becomes very easy to be able to drop them into UE5 and create subsequent games. And that's kind of where we're going, and I'm going to show you what that might look like. So the first step we took when we started to make these assets is, and I actually have that card in my pocket, I think. Yep, so this is one of our physical trading cards. These are something we're working towards just for broader distribution. We'll hand out a bunch of them if anyone wants to get one later. But essentially, you can see how you can augment trading cards themselves, physical trading cards, to kind of create new experiences. And this was like the first exploratory step to determine what could be possible. The next step was to drop all those assets into UE5. And this is an example of vehicles, characters, guns, landscapes, equipment that really composes the world. And these are all things that appear on cards. And so we're able to create this in 2 days. And so the possibilities that are unlocked by this asset repository that we created as we create our trading cards is quite material. But the problem here is that there are incumbents in the space, in the traditional gaming space, and you're going to compete with them. You have to compete with them to be successful. And the problem with that kind of led us to Colony. So if I say ARPG, people probably think Diablo. If I say first-person shooter, you probably think Halo. These are known incumbents that have created categories and own those categories almost exclusively. Obviously, there's a number of other participants that build games in this space, but you're competing with traditional gaming in a place where they've already almost won the vast majority of the segment. And so that brings us to Colony. So instead of taking these assets, like I showed you in that demo there of the guy running around and saying, let's build a third-person shooter, I think we said, okay, for us to stand out, we have to do two things. We have to use blockchain in a way that it's kind of creating a new category of game, and it has to be uniquely possible because of blockchain. And with the advent of AI and LLMs, essentially what we did was we said, hey, what if we created an avatar, a character, and a 1.5 player game? Not a game where you play alone, not a game where you and a friend play, a 2-player or multiplayer game, but a game where the AI is the player, and you're kind of the devil and the angel on its shoulder, suggesting and talking to it as to how it should navigate this simulation in this world. So Colony is essentially the world's first 1.5 player AI game that uses blockchain, and everything in the game is on-chain. And so as the AI character, which you'll see in the next demo, interacts with other AIs, it's able to transact. So each avatar is a 721, a full-bodied, rigged in UE5, and each one of them has a 6551 wallet. So essentially what you have is digital intelligence with its own wallet that it can transact on, and it's able to obtain assets from this simulation in this world, transact and talk to other AIs, plan, make strategies and plan as to what it wants to achieve, and interact with essentially everyone and transact fully independently. And what that means is digital intelligence, which is obviously this major arc that we've seen come up in the space in general, with digital assets being owned by them. And so now I'll show you essentially what is our UE5 target state for Colony, which is the world's first 1.5 player AI game. So I'll talk you through a bit about it without overdoing it. You've got your character down there. The AI is actually talking to other AIs and interacting with them.
Where are you going?
I'm heading to talk with Xander about his mint tea.
I think you should go mine some more materials first, so that we can prepare for a raid.
So you're not moving this
Okay,
character.
yeah,
This
that
is
sounds
AI
like a good
controlled.
idea. Thanks.
As it passes other characters, it's identifying them, looking into what they're doing, why they're doing it. So now the character's approaching the mine is going to gain resources, raw materials that they're able to refine and get ERC-20 primed from the simulation. If you watch their inventory, you'll see they'll get raw materials, That's an 1155 that's been generated by a custom stable diffusion model that we've trained ourselves, deposits the 1155, mints it on chain, and now that character is going to go refine it and interact with other characters, and you'll see what happens next.
Did you just pick up some refined ore? I've got a plasma charger that you can use to turn all that stuff into a rifle. Maybe we can trade.
Sure, can I buy it from you? How does 11 Prime sound?
You got a deal.
So the character's transacted on an ERC-2011 Prime and has obtained another plasma charger that they're going to need to be able to craft a rifle for themselves. So that essentially was two AIs transacting on-chain entirely independently of any human interacting with them.
Warning. Enemy approaching.
And now we have an enemy that's approaching the colony. So the reason this is so relevant right now is a huge generation of people, myself included. I've got a 5-month-old baby boy at home, and I can't play Warzone for 3 hours anymore. It's simply not possible. My wife would, hang me for it. And I also find no gratification or enjoyment in playing Candy Crush. And so you've got a whole generation of people who've grown up playing Nintendo and then Sega and PlayStation and computer games and all these things. And yet we're at a point where we need a game that you're able to dial up and down your engagement based on your time and preferences. And essentially, if we're going to use digital intelligence to do that, they should have natively digital possessions, and that's entirely possible with a blockchain infrastructure to be able to do this. So this is something that we've had in development. That's the target state. We are going to be doing additional public demonstrations of it. We've already done public tests of Colony, but I wanted to demonstrate how a card game could be the pre-production, which is already successful in its own right. I mean, 300,000 games played in 35 days is nothing to balk at. There's over just under a quarter million people signed up to play, because it's not in full release yet, the card game. But how that can act as pre-production for an asset repository of on-chain assets that can power more ways to play, and in particular, power AI to have its own assets that it can interact with other AIs to buy, sell, trade, and obtain assets from a world that are scarce. And so really, as we kind of understand what the pieces are here, we've got this avatar collection. This has been in the market for some time. Essentially, we've created 11,000 characters that are usable in this simulation. Those characters, we're obviously in the process of making them all full-bodied and rigged to be able to do this. And ultimately, as we further build out and expand the simulation or the AI colony game, our objective is to be able to allow you to move between multiple colonies and multiple worlds. So thank you very much, and I appreciate everyone's time. I'm very happy to be here, and if you want to talk to me about this, you're welcome to find me. I'll be hanging out with my team, and thank you.